But, yeah, I don't think they include demos anymore. Alright, so apparently this was the finals of the first Asia server qualifier. Second round, so this, like, whoever wins this best of 5 actually makes it through. To qualify for Katowice, get seeded into the, oh, what is it actually? Top... I don't know. Shit, I should look this up. They get seated forward, not to play in the open bracket. There you go. And they also get all expenses paid. Well, I shouldn't put it that way. They get their flight and the hotel paid. And catering, so kind of, almost. So it's a pretty big deal to win this. I was having trouble speaking earlier, and apparently that will continue. But, alright. Blah, 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 blah. Let's do it. In the top right as the red Terran on, oh boy, World of Sleepers, it is TY. Into the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, he is soO, going for a pool first. So World of Sleepers is an III map for Terrans. TY did try and go for bio on this map in the Wardy TV League, and then promptly proved why bio is so hard on this map and why mech is so preferred. A lot of other Terrans are going straight mech into it, and then just straight up, like, turtle mech. Turtle. So that's what I would expect TY to do, but yeah, he went for bio once, so he'll do it again. We'll see. Good thing he's SCV scouting, because it is a pool first. Doesn't want to delay his command center at all. It was not with gas. That was like hatch gas. So it is just the Toolings coming out, trying to do something. Not going to do anything. Reaper will stay at home. Toolings is already like... Toolings is like hoping they can get the SCV. They probably don't even get the SCV. You can say tits and we can't? Yeah, because I fucking own this channel. And you know how many people obnoxiously said to me, like, show me your tits and show me your pussy? And then went, ha ha ha, just kidding, I meant the cats or some shit? Don't fucking question my rules. Don't fucking question me. I am supreme leader. Alright, I'm done. I'm just kidding. Yes, you cannot say it because it was just easier to ban it entirely. No one said it to me in a while, but I'm hit or miss on the amount of mods I actually have available. Sometimes it's a perfect amount, sometimes it's way too few, sometimes it's like the entire chat. Can't guess right. Time not going? Yeah, him and Cyan, I think, both were planning on going, but now they can't. Time is like really... It was one of the guys I specifically cast actually a couple days ago, because I really was interested to see where he's at. Oh well. We're not wanting abuse for being Chinese. Sadly, I think that is something you have to consider. But I think if you're like in a tournament, I think it's a little less likely, right? You know, if you're going to well, actually, I don't want to stereotype too many people. I was gonna say old people, but I don't want to stereotype too strongly. I think the amount of criticism they would get, the amount of like, why are you coming in here, you know, at the actual event would be very low. But I'm sure they'd be under extra scrutiny just for being from China. I do agree with that. Anywho, I believe TY and soO are both going. That doesn't spoil this, because they could be going just because their team sends them or because they actually qualified. But I think they're both going. 4 Hellions actually just running right up into the main base. Very bold of a Terran to do, and I'll explain that in a second. They don't get too much done. Couple drones, couple lings. One lost mining time as well. Behind us, we do have a fusion core. But yeah, it's very bold to do. When, especially if you're not like planning on producing more Hellions, then you really shouldn't do it. If you're planning on producing more Hellions, then it's not the worst thing. It's just that an immediate counterattack of Lings can be tricky to deal with. You know, if they overproduce Lings going, oh shit, and they come across the map, it could be nasty. You don't have a nice combo of like 4 and 4 Hellions now that you can keep at home and do some pressure with. Now you have to decide, do I let a Ling run by happen? Do I gamble with the next 4 Hellions? Like, it's big question marks, but most of the time it doesn't work out too poorly. Not that it was really directly worth the Hellions. How come CG gets money from this sub channel? From subs this channel and we don't? Because this ain't communism. commies. Just because he's Chinese? Well, it's not, I mean, it's not like that. I'm gonna imagine that he legitimately, like, there's some of him not wanting to go because, you know, he's gonna be a mass of people, and it's appearing in a lot of different countries. And I gotta imagine it's because it's already difficult enough for Chinese visa to make it through anywhere, so on top of that, you have paranoid governments who, on no notice, could go from being chill. Oh, well, that kind of sucks. Because TY was making his battle cruisers, that's why. Yeah, to go from being chill one day, and then the next day cancel the super tournament, right? Like, he could be all ready to go, and then Poland is like, you know what? No, we're not letting Chinese people in, which is a very legitimate fear. It sucks. I'm saying it's right, but it's, you know, that's gonna happen. Anyways, so kind of a busted opener, I would say, for TY in terms of his direct value trades. So we can actually check that a little bit here. Ah, actually, you know what? He traded better. Look at that. I'm sure the battlecruiser helped a little bit there, popping up in the main like it did, but it didn't really get a whole lot done. Just maybe a couple drones here and there. There's like 3 killed earlier on. It's actually more than a couple drones. So that's more it's more so because the battlecruisers are still living and doing damage. The Hellions, though, they have not been too impressive. That's okay. Hellions are cheap, they produce fast, and in numbers of 4+, they're very effective. Unlike, you know, maybe tanks where... No, actually, I mean, 4 tanks is still pretty good. But the point is, they are very easy to reproduce. So losing them, not such a big deal. You do want to have some to cover these Cyclones. He follows up with it. And he's going to Cyclone upgrade follow-up as well. It's not quite mandatory. It's certainly a way to play. Now, the IEM Qualifiers at this point, 3 weeks old? So we are talking about some developing metas. We're really getting a lot of especially Terran, with the amount of build orders they have and styles that they can choose from. We're seeing a lot of very abrupt switches. Just like, okay, 1 week we're all doing bio, the next week we're all doing mech. And then someone stays on bio, and it's like the mean girls are like, why are you wearing bio? What are you doing? And then it switches back. And like, it's kind of hard to tell what everyone's in the mindset. You know, TY, yeah, plays mech here, but then 2 weeks later plays bio. And promptly loses a fairly good game for him. He's going to go ahead and sacrifice a couple Hellions to get that cancel, which is probably worth it as long as the Cyclones live, which they do. The mandatory part of the Cyclones, because you want something to deal with those Corruptors coming through, because for now, your real basis of defense, if they're going to try and attack you, is in the battlecruisers. They bring any handful of Corruptors along, and it can be a bad time. But we are seeing people skip the Cyclone portion and just go right into missile turrets. That does mean you also don't get this type of pressure that we just saw from TUI, but the trade-off is, you know, definitely safe and a earlier growing tank count as well, right? Because you will have a bit of a mineral dump, just as, you know, those mech things. soO not seeing a third base, I don't think was too concerning for him. Like, I would dare say that it's default third base for TVZ amongst the pros. So he knew. There's other ways you can also see without directly seeing it, but I didn't bother paying attention. Because I knew that soO knew that he knew that I knew and all that good stuff. Double upgrades are going to be on their way soon. We are getting vehicle upgrades, because another thing we're seeing is some people going right into ship and then adding on 2 fast starports. This is not the way we're playing here. TY just let's on, like, okay, yeah, come on in. Come on in, Lings. Yeah, alright then. With Yamato done, the battlecruisers can now take on groups of queens, and they will take on all 4 of those. While TY holds the natural. I mean, World of Sleepers is a fantastic map to get those 3 bases up, especially if you get the minerals done. The 4th base is a very easy skip over to the bottom lower level of the map, and then 5th and 6th is just more of a matter of splitting your army correctly, which TY is going to do, and Mech can do fairly well when you got some SimCity on top of it too. So they're not really able to bust. It's very frustrating because it's oftentimes with very few units. soO, you know, could be maxed out trying to do this, and he would not be able to actually take down the Terran. It is what it is. TY doesn't have, you know, can't play too, you know, confident. There we go. Can't play too confident. Needs to be out on the map, scouting, seeing what direction they're coming from, and getting any chance for the Cyclone Lock-On to do whatever damage they can. I mean, Cyclone Lock-On is kind of a guaranteed kill. Might be a Roach, might be a Ling, but it's guaranteed. So soO is transitioning into that super late game. We have a bunch of upgrades on the way. We have all the tech choices on the way. It does seem the best choice in this scenario for Zerg players is Swarm Host. I've seen Rogue try and do no Swarm Host. You almost want to get to Innovation, but not quite. So I gotta imagine that's what soO's going to be going into, and TY should also know that. He knows that I know that she knows. If the casters know how to predict a game like this, and the players also usually know how to predict a game like this, right? This would have been too bold of a move out. Only a single tank covering. Of course, that high ground does cover to an extent. But now the Corruptors are on top of the command center, and the SCVs are trying to repair, but actually they've run out of space to repair. Corrosive Bile knocks that down. That is a nice grab for soO, who didn't spend too many resources on grabbing that. Oh, this is actually nice. But I was going to say, like, it doesn't really matter because TY has a bunch of extra minerals and command centers and won't be losing army anytime soon. But then on top of that, not mattering so much, the battle cruiser just came in and swiftly killed a couple queens, a couple drones, and an entire hatchery. So I would say, end of the day, definitely not worth, just because his army wasn't there to protect his bases from the battle cruiser. So bummer, 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 and look how instant that fourth base comes down regardless. It was supposed to be a fifth, it was supposed to be an orbital, what have you, but yeah, it's easy to replace. And even if he didn't have a lot of minerals in the bank, which he doesn't quite yet, the point is he doesn't lose his army. There's really no army trades that happen sufficiently for either player. So they just don't really want to push into each other. It's pretty dangerous to do on both sides. Even with Cyclone Hellbat, he's got to be careful. So eventually you both get maxed, and eventually you both bank. That's just how things go. You know how easy it was to predict a game back in the Swarm Host era of Heart of the Swarm? A PVZ was so easy to predict, I literally did it drunk on the floor, not able to see the screen. No joke, that actually happened. TVZ, Mech vs. Zerg on World of Sleepers, kind of in the same boat, man. I feel like I could do this off of sound alone, just to know if, like, the batteries do damage or not. And that's a little unfortunate, because unless things really change up in the next 2 weeks, Katowice is going to have this map pool, and we're going to have to deal with this on the big stage. So that's going to be a bummer. That's going to be time you take a bathroom break and get some food and all that. So as much as I want to hype up these little portions right here, it's probably not really important. Battle Cruisers once again finding a base. It's going to have to be canceled. Charging into that fourth, whatever it was. They actually missed the Infestors, but is no Parasite already done? It's not. Just a Fungal, which does grab one of the battle cruisers. Not too shabby. And Helene's just safeguarding the other base. Cyclone's constantly sharking around looking for those Corruptors. Also got to keep tabs on what the composition is from soO. Is it Swarm Hosts? Is it Broodlords? We are not on Swarm Hosts, so I'm afraid that soO won't go Swarm Hosts. And if he goes anything else, then that's when TY really starts to have a field day. That's when Mech looks quite good. Even if you get them out of position, even if you take a couple okay fights, the Mech army is going to outpower the consistent, you know, I don't know how many resources lost the Zerg can throw at you. They'll throw 3 or 4 humongous Baneling Roach Ravager armies at you, but they, there's only so many minerals on the map, and half of them go to TY, so that's what we saw with Rogue Innovation, and that's what I can see happening here. This was from the IEM Qualifiers. Like Investor over Swarm Hosts? Well, doesn't really matter what you like. Seems that the games that have Swarm Hosts end up favorable for Zerg in almost in a one-sided way, and anything else ends up favorable for Terran. Maybe one-sided, maybe not so one-sided. That's just what I've seen. So, doesn't matter what we think. It's what these pros are doing. Neuroparasite is on the way. Lots of upgrades finishing up, but also for TY. He's changing over into those Thors. You have a basis of tanks. Thors are really the best option to add on, especially as they get fully upgraded. Thors are actually amazing. Fear Dragon called it like a year ago when we played team games. He was right. Thors are really amazing. They've actually been nothing but really buffed as well in the last 2 years. Going from a unit that felt really too clunky and too inefficient to being a unit that absolutely just dominates armies. Unless there are parasites involved. Which it will be. But as soon as TY, pushes out, I guess. This is actually kind of a weird push out, because he's not actually pushing to a base. He's just actually pushing. Which a lot of other Terrans would not push. They would literally just tell the Zerg to come to them. So we'll see how this works out. We'll see. You can add in Liberators to try and also help out against those Infestors, and that still does pretty well. Unfortunately, the Corruptors could kill this either way, whether it's lifted or landed. Neuroparasite's going to cause one Thor to die. Actually, good control here from TY, not focus firing his own Thor. But yeah, there you go. soO's going to kill it anyways. Yeah, but every other Zerg, like Wardy, like literally has been casting nonstop, my dude. And he sat there and watched this late game World of Sleepers TVZ and said, yeah, Swarm Hosts just dominate. And I saw it and I was like, yep, that makes sense. So you come out here, you come out with a lot of like your own opinions, and that's, that's fine. But I don't know, sometimes MO, sometimes I don't know, man. Dark Retirement mean with them. Dark's pretty good with Swarm Hosts. 12 Broodlords on the way against someone who already has a sizable amount of Thors. Now, these Thors aren't as good unless they have Hellbats on the front, and they're not so good when they're under control of your opponent. So you also would like those Liberators in the front lines, which he is getting to. But they can still tackle what I would, lower number of Broodlords, so like 8, and so 12 is getting to that point where, yeah, if they don't have Hellbats, if the tanks aren't controlled well, like they're gonna get obliterated. So this might actually be a very fair composition for soO to go into, as TY, again, maybe, like, erroneously pushes out. Other Terrans are just, like, saying, you come to me. And by pushing out, he opens opportunities for bases to go down. Exactly what happens here. And for his army to be caught off guard. Did I call that fight right? Okay, I did. Well, like, the Queen's coming in for the transfuse help a lot, actually, because those Thors are apparently winning it. I thought 12 was going to be enough, but lo and behold, I still underestimate Thors. They're not even completely fully upgraded. All right, there's like any amount of fodder on the ground. There we go. But they took down a lot of Thors with them. The defense to the north does not successfully defend this base, but it does now initiate a counter. Unfortunately, mech counters are really poor. Like, look again, the lack of Hellbats here. The Lings dominate anyways. And mech is all about combining your forces together, hitting together, and then taking good enough fights that you can hopefully rally forward with your army still together. As soon as it's low in numbers, apart from each other, all that good stuff, it just doesn't hold up. It just doesn't. Again, this is kind of like this weird thing where 3 weeks ago is not that long, and a lot of times if it's all the same map pool, if it's the same patch, it's not that long in StarCraft. But I think we have a lot of people trying to figure things out as we get to our first big tournament of the year. And as such, I will say that 3 weeks ago, TY might not have figured out how to deal with this. But today, Terrans have figured out how to deal with this style. TY might also just be TY and styling. He did go bio on this map after all, which was terrible. Neural units took a shot by their comrades except for Widow Mines. Did I know that and I forgot? It's been so long since I've seen an actual, like, engagement that I wasn't being just absolutely overwhelmed by, and it didn't matter what was shooting what. Yeah, you're right. The unit that is controlled absolutely does hit your units, otherwise by no parasite. But the other way around doesn't work. Now the Liberators are here. And Neural Parasite should be less of an issue. Do not have the upgrade for the Liberators. They come with, like, a bit better, but... And they come a lot faster as well, being able to reactor it out. But a little extra range can help against those Infestors. He scans ahead, he sees them. Thor's gonna tackle the Corruptors away from those Liberators. This is the ideal situation that you would want. Battlecruiser is harassing. I mean, TY has taken out 2 bases at this point, with this one not mining anymore, while taking this bottom right one and taking the middle left one. Now, that's an orbital. That won't last very long, but if soO is just trying to defend here and not focusing on harassing, then it might last long enough. Liberators are left a little alone, but the corruptor count's still not high enough. Actually, a ton of Roachling Baneling. It's gonna collapse it on 2 Thors, and that's kind of not exactly a free pickup, but it's a good pickup. And TY is continuing to rally with this high ground on his side, really bullying soO back. The Ultra's transition is sometimes okay. It's not usual that you would see Ultras really do very well, but in certain scenarios, they absolutely can be a good swap, even against mech. I think he's just doing that thing where he gets everything he can just for all the options. But now that he's done that, gotten all the upgrades for everything as well, had a couple of scuffles here and there, that bank is not looking very convincing. He did not stay on 80 workers, 6-7 bases for much of this game. And that is reducing the likelihood of him winning. He has to take a really dominating fight here, which he's obviously struggling to do. Now we have Liberator range on the way. Only a couple of Broodlords are going to get slaughtered by the Thors. They can try and help a little bit with friendly fire from the tanks. And they are helping a little bit. Neural Parasite coming down as well. He's going to focus fire on top of the Infestors, which is absolutely what you should be doing. He scans, and is anything attacking that? No, it isn't. But it might not matter. soO actually just lost his entire army with a couple of Liberators, plenty of Thors, and a consistent production rally coming in here from TY. soO's supply is looking terrible as this base gets taken out, and TY mines, at least from the bottom right, even if this top one isn't doing so hot. It's still being used for mules. This would not be such a big deal if soO had a huge bank, was instantly remaxing, then the game goes on, but he is not able to remax while TY a little limited by gas. That's one of the reasons you do need just a lot of bases, just to have as much gas as possible. But he is looking stronger here. Wikipedia is wrong. Well, I never really questioned if fully upgraded Ultras actually win 1v1 against fully upgraded Thors. I mean, I never bothered thinking about it, I guess. Because it's never usually that simple, right? You got a couple of tanks, you got a couple of Thors, you have some SimCity on your side, even Hellbats can help a little bit, again, adding to the SimCity. You got 2 clunky units that are pretty bad at moving, but Ultras may be worse. The Changeling wall doesn't actually work. soO has managed to get remaxed, but it is on some pretty poor units. He's still going for that lair-based tech of a Roach Ravager Ling Baneling, which is very expensive and very suicidal. Baneling's obviously suicidal, but you know, even then, like you try and take a good fight, you collapse in on this army, and it just seems like everything disappears for both sides. Investors once again trying their best to kill off whatever they can, but even Neural Parasiting a Thorn and having to use your own banners against it, it's still, you know, it's still kind of a win there for TY. There's only a couple Liberators are covering him now. It seems they've done the job. Tanks covering as well. Bottom right base is being harassed, and oh, it actually dies, but those missile turrets can help out, but it is an easy solution to replace that as TY is banking the minerals. Still covering his Liberators with those Thors. I mean, soO really struggling to figure out how to combat this perfect combination of an army. Thors covering Liberators, covering Thors. Yeah. It's tough, I guess, you know, finding a better position. I think having a different type of army, you know, weighing the units here a little bit differently. I'm not saying a Broodlord army does it, because it often doesn't. But sometimes you get to those, like, 20 Broodlords with a Neural Parasite, with Banelings, and you can actually break the line. And also you need to fit in a lot of Corruptors in there as well, I guess, too. It's very difficult. Vipers also aren't necessarily that helpful here, because they do... With the Liberator range, it's most likely the Thors will be able to knock down those Vipers, even if they get the Abduct off. They'll still die, and that's not going to be a good trade. So, yeah. soO would probably want to just do a straight-up counter, you know, run-by. Counterattack, base trade, coming from multiple angles would also probably help. But he is coming in through an angle that goes up into a choke that's covered by a bunch of Liberators, even some missile turrets coming down right now with full upgrades, I believe, too. It's just not gonna work. And TY pushing into a Zerg is actually gonna be fine here. Even though some other Terrans have just said, okay, you come to me. Nope, TY actually, I mean, I guess in a way, we finally see the final fight happen. I guess in a way, TY said, no, you come to me. But while pressuring a potential base of soO too. So, that worked out that time, but I'm hesitant to believe in it. GG. soO does lose game number 1, but of a best of 5. Let's get into game number 2. It's going to be on Eternal Empire. Another pretty good mech map. I'm new to StarCraft 2 and loving the game. Great! You should definitely check out all the streams. You should check out Team Liquid, where you can find all the events happening and any tournament links that you need to know about, as well as other streamers. And check out my YouTube, which has a lot of commentary on it, as well as some build orders for you and all that good stuff. So, welcome. Welcome. Drop that Dota. You know what? Drop it. You don't need team games anymore. You found a 1v1 game. In the top right, it is the Red Terran TY. In the bottom left, the Blue Zerg soO. And, you know, after a game like that, soO's might gonna be a little bit more eager not to let that game happen again. It's not exactly a fun game for the Terran, I would say. But it was a game that you won, so, you know, you're gonna do it again. And a TY is feeling mechish in this particular point in time 3 weeks ago, then he might just continue doing mech every game. I don't see as much switching it up as I feel like we once did. There's been times where bio and mech were kind of even. It's very rare. There's more so times when people's like, no, mech is the way to go. The maps dictate mech or bio, or no, you can't do this because Hormos is too good, so you can't go mech. Like, it's actually kind of happening right now. Like, there's always those times more than the, yeah, I think both are okay right now. That's such a rare thing to hear. But it happens. And you get some, like, best of 5s that are 3 out of 5 bio or mech. Think twice if you want to pick Terran. Honestly, coming from a MOBA background, if you know, we were just guessing off your name here, I do think that Protoss is the easier transition. It's obviously not a 1-to-1, but there is a reason why a lot of our Warcraft guys, so Roddy and Todd, and then a couple others that came from Warcraft were StarCraft 2 pros, but are now retired, and I can't think of any right now. But yeah, there's a reason they went over to Protoss, and I think it does make a lot of sense. More so on those expensive individual units you want to keep alive than Zerg, which is a lot of, you know, suiciding, and Terran, which is, well, an in-between. Well, just because you play one game doesn't mean you're going to fit every style. So, pick whatever race you think is cool. Picking Zerg's probably the right one, because Zerg's totally overpowered. Am I right, guys? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? The Muslim's the only one that came from Warcraft. Not the only one, I should say. He's one of the guys who came from Warcraft and did choose Terran. But he also came from Warcraft in a lesser degree, I would say. My impression of that whole trio was that Todd was very, very good. Grubby was very, very good. Grubby, another, there you go, guy turned into Protoss when he went to StarCraft 2. Roddy was, like, pretty damn good. And then the Muslim was, like, good, but kind of, like, up and coming. That's always been my impression of how things went down. Yeah, it's just a theory. It's just a you know, thing. It's a thing to wonder about and advise and relate to Dota or League of Legends or anything else. But it's obviously not a one-to-one. I got a quick third CC here from TY, skyrocketing into that mid game. Fusion core on the way from TY as well, so I'm going to expect mech. soO should also expect mech. He did take a surprising amount of damage to the battlecruiser. I didn't see it directly, but you know, at the end he had 12 drones, 13 drones killed, and I was a little surprised by that. We do see a lot of people just predict battlecruiser, and then that ends up being their downfall because they think it's a battlecruiser, ends up being like a Banshee or a Liberator, or maybe some Hellbat attack, and they actually fail against those. But generally, people were predicting battlecruisers even 3 weeks ago. And, you know, 2 spores in the main, queens in the natural, and lings and banelings at the third base to deal with Hellions. It's kind of a solid setup, even though those things could change. Sometimes the battlecruiser teleported to the natural or the third. So soO could certainly have had a stronger early game, I guess, but it's always so weird looking at those games, like the last one, and saying anything in the early game really mattered. It matters in the way that they can't have as strong of a mid game as they would like, which then forces them into the late game. Okay, sure. But I wouldn't say soO took that much damage that his mid game didn't have a chance. It's more just the style that TY was playing. We very rarely see Corrupt or Roach Ravager actually kill it. A couple months ago we saw it, but not recently. Yamato it is, so definitely more than one battlecruiser, and if it's more than one battlecruiser, it's 9 times out of 10. 99% of the time it'll be mech. I'm actually struggling to think of the last time I saw someone go for 2 battlecruisers, Yamato with Bio. Doesn't really happen anymore. It's usually 1 battlecruiser, no Yamato for Bio. So, there you go. And the Overseer here from soO is going to scout that. Getting a nicely timed lair used to be really important for centrifugal hooks, but now it's pretty important trying to get a Spire. Again, maybe that mid-game push with the Corruptors doesn't look that important, look that amazing, but you still need the Spire to defend with as well. We don't see the Battlecruisers do a lot of damage, and that is a lot because people just are like, yeah, Corruptors, and then you don't take damage. If you try and play around without Corruptors, you're going to be in for a bad time, even if you technically can do it. Ooh, Hellions and Battlecruiser at the third base. Trying to really mix up soO here, but he has got his queens on the third, which would have maybe been more of an opening in the main, but there's no way TY would have known that. Grabbing a creep tumor is, you know, not really worth the scan, especially with the queens all there and the active creep tumor is still available. It's how demolish running Warcraft 3. Yeah, I was like gonna try and think of comparing them to current pros, but I'd probably just get it super wrong. So like, why bother? But yeah. Todd and Grubby were the best, along with some other names that didn't really go into StarCraft 2. Ooh, no cancel. soO, please. Getting a single SCV in return for 300 minerals? Nuh-uh, nuh-uh. Terran Protoss easier for lower levels. I mean, it really does depend. Oh, this is kind of cute. Getting a lineup on the queens. They have transfuse though, so it's unlikely a lot of them would die. Yeah, it depends on the level. I think Zerg's harder at the very, very beginning because it's the most unique macro. But if we're talking about bronze and silver, we're not really talking about macro anyways. Like, legitimately, we're not. There's like no injects, there's no mules, there's no orbitals. So, yeah. And then at some point, Zerg actually gets easier because it's more about just setting up a concave as opposed to setting up like micro. And then at one point, you know, Storm is very overpowered, so Protoss is easier. There's not really a super big... There's not really an easy blanket to just envelop every newcomer in. Don't underestimate the lower levels. I'm not. I'm speaking from watching people submit replays. They will literally not get orbitals. And then some... I mean, there's one guy actually is platinum who would get orbitals, and I kept on being like, you should really get orbitals. And he was like, yeah, maybe later. And I was like, no, you really should. Yeah. Oh, it's talking to him. Yeah. Yeah, then I guess I kind of agree with you then. Like, yeah, don't underestimate. Or overestimate or anything. Just, yeah, don't blanket it, I guess. Muta's coming in with Corruptors is always that unique little spin on things, but it's so unlikely to really be worth it. getting a missile turret, getting a handful of SCVs, but the Cyclones are available. Again, maybe with some other mech styles that don't even bother going for Cyclones at all, it can be okay, but the Battle Cruisers obviously do fine enough. Against pure Muta, they do struggle when it's a combination, but We're also talking about like Muta's. I mean, the same cost. Like, it doesn't really matter. There's no point in overanalyzing this. It did get some damage done. It does force TY to get more missile turrets than maybe he would want this early on. You want them later on because you don't want Corruptors pissing on your stuff. But yeah, it's not quite the same as a big surprise of Mutas in a normal mech game, quote unquote, and Mutas in bio nowadays. So really starting to heat up. But in this card, whatever. Plenty of minerals to go around. Plenty of game left to be had. So, no. Who cares what the Mutas do? Hive is on the way. More CCs. Blue Flame finally as well. Soon. Not going to experiment with Swarm Host, apparently. Specified. Thank you very much, Lytherin. Best guess there. For the 1,000 bits. Yo! Thank you for sharing those emotes during the month of love, apparently. Because there's February 14th. Which I have never, ever celebrated. Ever. Never had a significant other. I'm all alone. Just kidding. Thank you for the bits. My mom does buy us all a box of chocolates, so that's always nice. I hope she does, even though I don't live at home anymore. Actually, the best thing about Valentine's Day is if you're a chocolate fiend, which I'm really not, but I like it occasionally, of course, is the discount chocolate after Valentine's Day. Alright, Corruptors, what are you doing there, buddy? You're not going to get anything done. The last of the Mutas die. Cyclone's going to lock onto the Corruptors as well. Going to scan just to maximize their damage. Not quite going to get anything. Maybe this Overseer is going to die. 4 Battle Cruisers scouted by an Overlord that instantly dies. Not a whole lot in the natural right now. He knows who the Corruptors are after all. Oh, but he sees what he doesn't like. Yeah, some Infestors, some Queens. Not going to bother risking it against the Infestor Biscuit. Not worth it. Isn't February Girl Scout Cookie Month? Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Wait, do Girl Scouts come to apartments? Ah, man. Okay, I gotta ask my mom to make sure she buys Girl Scout cookies for me. I mean, I can go to the grocery store because they hang out there. That sounded weird. You know what I mean? They sell cookies there. Oh, now I'm really excited. I'm not really that much of a sweet tooth person. My problems with food is definitely just like carbs, just fucking bread and rice. Delicious. But, damn, Girl Scout cookies. Yeah. Anyways, more harassment. I told you guys Eternal Empire is good for mech, and we're seeing it here. I don't know what's going through soO's head to try and, like, you know, what could he have done better in that last game? We do have some things that are different already, actually more so on TY side. So soO not going for a Greater Spire as quick, I think. It's, you know, could be wrong about that. He's actually getting Titus plating a lot quicker, so I do believe that is true. TY is going for Liberator range a lot quicker. He did see the Infestor after all, and probably thought that was a good idea. And also not transitioning into Thors as quickly. Now this might be because he somehow scanned or his battle just saw the Greater Spire last game, and it was more so a direct thing. But as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be a direct thing. Like when you have a decent number of tanks, you start just adding in Thors because they're just generally good units to have. Even if it turns out the Zerg is not going for Corruptors or Broodlords or... yeah, you know, those two. The Thors still pack a punch. So, yeah, now we have those Thors finally on the way. But yeah, I feel like he went to more Cyclones in last game. Probably because of the Mutas. Oh, went straight for that Spire. Get wrecked. Oh, that was a good snipe. There's no second Spire. It was upgrading, so it's a loss of an upgrade. While TY continues on to his 3-3. Now, soO has a lot of really great upgrades on the ground. 3-3-2 on the way. And even getting the Ultralisk Speed, which I don't remember if he got last game. He might have. He got almost everything. soO is rolling in the dough, but we know that that was the case last game, and he still ended up petering out after a while. Just went pit. He died. So how is this game going to be any different? He is, in fact, going to commit to Ultras. And that's a very interesting choice. Ultras, just like, they're generally not great against mech unless you're talking about Remax potential, because they're obviously, you know, bulkier than Lings, where Ling Remaxes get a little iffy as soon as 6 Hellions are out. Oh, good catch by soO. Find soO battlecruisers. They have to always make sure to kill them and not let them get out of their own range. That was weird. But they actually didn't have a teleport ready, so... These ones are going to die, maybe last second teleport, but we have a fight over here that might distract TY, so that's a big difference. Battlecruiser is actually going down here. Now, they could just replace all the supply with Thors and probably not be too worse off for it. Okay, this one does teleport out. But, yeah, the Ultras, they're so weird. They're so tricky. A Remax of Ling Ultra could be very difficult after a big fight for the mech player to deal with, because they, again, better in big numbers. But if you're talking about, like, a situated, set-up Terran, who's not on, like, pure Hellbat, then the Ultras usually don't get enough damage in. You know, they don't collapse in on the army well enough. That is usually what you're looking to do there. I don't know about that. They're also very easy targets for the Liberators, so we're going to have that fight. Ultra gets 1-2 chomps, other Ultra tries to take out a missile turret and then does nothing else. Infestors try and get something done, but the scan is good, and TY takes a very convincing fight right there. Just needs to maybe repair up some of these Thors right there. And, yeah, I don't know if this is really any better, soO. I don't know about this one. Being aggressive can be easier than macro styles. I'm going to defend MO a little bit here. I think what maybe he's saying, to give an example, is that sometimes even up till Masters, even if you're really bad at macroing, but you can send units across the map, you will actually, like, win the game, and you feel more comfortable just because you have units on the map, and you're constantly pressuring, even if you're just not doing very well in any other part of StarCraft 2. So I can kind of see what he's talking about. Well, this was maybe an overextension from TY. He does lose a couple of those Thors, but the Liberator's sieged up and the tanks are continuing to siege hop forward, so never mind. It was fine. Grabbing what is really supposed to be soO's base, because this one is usually the one that the right person gets. This one should actually not go to soO, so it's a bit of a trade here, but it really shouldn't go to soO. That should be a easy enough base to harass, usually with the battlecruisers, but we know they died. So we might just get away with that. Well, Baneling's crashing in. Thors need to split just a little bit there. We have a couple of Vipers, actually. That's something new. I was just from last game. You know, it's definitely not the case that Thors always are able to target fire. In fact, other times they're not. Their free fire is good enough. So Vipers occasionally can get in there and get out, but they're just not... they're really supposed to. TY might not be setting up slowly enough here, actually. I think that is the biggest problem, is he gets entirely swamped by Ling Ultra Neural Parasite. That, I think, was the main problem. He could have slowly pushed. Liberator sieged up first and foremost. Thor's ready to retreat down the choke. Instead, he found himself completely enveloped before he could really react. And that's exactly what soO's army is good at dealing with. And then the Corruptors actually find the Planetary off to the right side. Things starting to look a little bit up for soO, but his bank is not super convincing. That was a good fight, but it still wasn't like a dominating one. So he needs to be careful not to do, you know, more similar things, especially if he is going to let TY get this base up, even if it is eventually. This base could also become his, and again, this one is like... soO really shouldn't have it, but he's not even using it. So soO needs to be careful about the next fight, because he does not have a Remax in him. 7 Broodlords on the way. Unfortunately, like I said, just remaxing on Thors is really not that bad of an option. I think TY is trying to judge how many tanks to Thors he really needs to get, because the Ultras are probably throwing him for a bit of a loop. So he is getting a few more tanks, but he still has these number of Thors. Sensor towers galore. See the entire army moving to the top left. We have some SimCity working out here. Do we have building armor? We do. No high-tech auto tracking, but building armor may be a little more important. Unfortunately, against this much stuff and like nothing to help out here, a couple Liberators would have been beautiful. The Planetary will go down, and CY doesn't even really bother contesting that. he is too busy trying to push forward. And if he does push forward here, you can see why he's prioritizing this fight. He actually takes out 2 bases if he takes control of that high ground. So usually pretty good. A couple tanks were available to try and defend, but this planetary also going to go down. No attempt at repair. Fortunately, Ultras, like, literally, their thing is that they're well armored and they have a lot of health, so planetaries don't take them down that quickly. And planetary splash doesn't work that well against them either because they're fat. It's literally a thing, guys. So, soO taking out 2 bases for the price of mostly Lings and maybe, like, 1 Ultra, honestly. Like, a lot of Ultras still lived. And that is probably the best thing you can do with this composition. TY also is going to struggle to remax. He might be taking better fights, although I'm not sure that's really the case this game. Yeah, only slightly better. That's not what you want. But even he would eventually run out of minerals, right? So soO now transferring a lot of drones over here. This is important not just for more mining. Obviously, soO needs a bank. But because this is now a base that TY can no longer rely on in the future. Certainly can't underestimate that. TY goes to replace his bases with an orbital and a planetary, but planetary not done. Orbital not protected enough. These Ultras are not in the front lines, of course, and TY is going to take the opportunity, moving in with lots of Thors, a ton of Liberators, and even a couple of Vikings. Not a whole lot of Corruptors left over. It seems like soO has just completely given up on trying to tackle the Liberators with Corruptors, and I can't really blame him. But the Ultra's still going strong. We're now going to take out a planetary that ended up finishing. TY focusing so much on that bottom attack, he didn't bother lifting this base. He was given ample opportunity to. He was given fair warning, and he didn't lift it. So that's 800? No, that's 1,600 minerals down, plus the cost of planetary and orbital, with just a handful of Ultras. So that was money right there. That was pretty damn good for soO. But now TY is like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I don't want those bases anymore. I'm going to take this bottom right one, and I'll like think about the future later. It is still a sign that things are different. It's a sign that soO has a chance in this game. If he can actually stop TY from just taking over the map and mass expanding, that's already a bit better. And then, yeah, forcing him to replace all that, plus any SCVs he wants to replace, is taken away from his bank, which both of them very little bank. TY is still building extra command centers, and now he does have very well set up defenses across his planetaries. Against those Ultra one-bys, a couple Liberators really is the best thing you can do. Because they don't really kill the planetary that fast either. You know? Like, fast enough for the full surround, but not that fast. So if you can SCV repair in there, 2 Liberators hammer down, like, yeah, it's the best defense you can get. So I don't foresee soO taking down those bottom right bases. And that's why TY feels comfortable moving up to the top left. He's like, nope, 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 you're not getting these bases. Nah, We'll see how that works out. Brood Lord army is now covered by those Corruptors. Ultra's now coming in as well, but through Liberators, good God, they die so fast. A couple Banelings sound like they were crashing into those Thors too, and the Thors were not micro too well away from the army, but the Infestors once again failing in the Neural Parasite. Liberators actually unsiege. Oh my God, Liberator anti-air is so bad, but apparently if you have 7 Liberators, it's good enough, and TY just absolutely slaughtered soO. That was so one-sided. Liberators are so good, you guys. That was a murder, absolutely. soO just needs to tap right out of this game. Oh no. GG. TY goes up 2-0 over soO. And looks like he's going to be qualifying. Fortunately, I don't remember who qualified. I literally went over this stuff twice, and I don't remember. So I don't know what the spoiler is, but there is a game 3. There is a chance for soO to come back. Simulacrum. Gotta know how to say that word in case I cast soon. Simulacrum. In the top left, it is TY. Sending out an early STV. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, it is soO. Alrighty, brew. We got ourselves a proxy. But a single proxy? A single barracks? Or Reaper? This is an awfully early scout if that's what it is. Like, no. Some really good casting. Thank you. So yeah, it's got to do with a gas. Single Reaper proxy is more of a thing you would see in TVP. But it does, yeah, occasionally happen in TVZ, as seen here. You still get a bothersome early Reaper before those queens are quite ready to go. And then when you have 2 or 3 Reapers, the queens are still trying to, you know, get across non-creep highways, and it can get kind of annoying. And this is a decent map. It has at least one spot to jump in on. And Reapers also really aren't supposed to die against Zerg either. So there's like a couple of different reasons why you could see this would be a fair thing to open up with. But there is certainly a reason why you don't see Reaper proxies anymore, like 2, 3 racks Reapers. Or that much. There's the same way that it doesn't take a lot maybe to do, it also doesn't do a lot most of the time. So yeah, you'll keep the Reapers alive. They'll stay off of creep. They'll bother the queens, but as far as actual drone kills, as far as Zerg player having to make, 20, 40 lings, like, nah, it's not really going to happen. So just a little early pressure behind this. TY does get his command center up. If soO were going for an early pool, TY would scout it. And might have a different response, but it is a hatch first. So he's going to try and get that bunker down. It's going to be seen. And the Reaper would take a little while to get over there if the drones were all moved to the natural, but you don't transfer your workers. You just transfer the ones that are oversaturating. Reaper actually decided to go for the main base just straight off the bat, so this drone could have taken out that SCV. That's a missed opportunity. soO probably just a little bit like, wait, a bunker? Wait, a Reaper? What? Kind of thing going on here. So far, so good on the micro. Just buy time for the lings, and the queens will eventually pop out. And otherwise, you do have that very typical game behind this. We have one Marine skedaddling over to that bunker. He's gonna get it. Get in it. But it's a bunker with 2 Marines at most. So it's not actually that scary. Drones still have not gone down. So far, a really good defense from soO. And actually, TY doesn't even bother. He doesn't even bother using the bunker. I'm not really sure TY got what he wanted. Again, I'm not, like, I can't think of what he would expect to happen. If it's a pool first, he's probably hoping that the lings stay at home. He, dances around them. Oh, he's an overlord. That's not bad. Dances around them. Stops the lings from attacking him. Bit of a waste of a pool first, perhaps. That's more so what he was thinking of, but... yeah. Didn't take much to do, and didn't do too much. That's the sum right there. Bunker actually going down. If you're not 2-raxing, then your barracks does have to come home, pretty much. You don't get that free scout with the 100 Mineral Overlord. So he should be a little afraid of what's following this up, as the Reaper also is on a clock against that speed that is most likely on a very normal way. Maybe even a little bit late, but still, it's all in the way. A couple Marines will help Micro. Still loses the SCVs and no SCV to complete the bunker. We have more lings coming through here. Still not a ton of lings. This is not a disaster, but it is something certainly in retribution of the early game. Even another SCV going to go down. Bunker going to have to be canceled or lost. Actually, the Howland's about to pop out, so the bunker will survive, but I don't think you need the bunker anymore. Yeah, just cancel it. Banshee actually being produced. This might, again, go back to him just not having a lot of scouting and being afraid of what soO can do against him. But I'd be surprised by that, because you really, like, when your Hellions are actually out in the map, you can actually see the follow-up roaches. Even if they're pretty quick, you can still see them with enough time to respond without having to go for a safety Banshee. So I'm guessing that's what it was, just like, okay, what if? And then as soon as he sees nothing, he cancels it, waits for the battlecruiser. Could have also just been a habit thing, but I think it's the former. So safe play here from TY. He's going to get a full scout of the Hellions really on the front lines, and then a full scout of the main with the Reaper. We're going to see that lair timing. And the game goes on despite a bit more of an interesting first 4 minutes. soO has not gotten Overlord speed in any of these games. Bye-bye, German caster. I didn't want you anyways. Okay, no Overlord speed. Nothing's really needed it. It is going to be apparently battlecruiser, 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 battlecruiser. It's hard to say 5 times. I was like writing something and I had to use the word February a couple times, and I typed it and I missed the R, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, it's with an R. So February. And I typed it correctly and I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't look like a goddamn word. This doesn't look like a thing. Why is it like this? Why is February spelled like this? Who did this? Why is English even a language? It really freaked me out. And why does it have an R? No one ever pronounces the R. It's supposed to be like January, February. There's no R. There's no two R's. Okay, anyways. So Nidus Worm was on the way, but canceled, decides not to go for it, perhaps just thinking that the timing was too bad. Maybe he was hoping that this was the time there wasn't a battlecruiser. Not sure, but it not only saw a battlecruiser, it also saw production already on the way. And if there's production already about to complete, tanks come out, and Nidus Worm has a little less chance to really work. Could have been Cyclones. Scan reveals nothing, actually. Spire is somewhere else. Oh, there it is. Chip me out too, man. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to scout. But it is a Spire, and that is the most anticipated response per, you know, the last 2 games, guys. Like, it's kind of obvious that's the most expected response. So even though he doesn't scout it, and this game started off a little bit weirder, he should be considering it. But he did see Roach Warren, he saw it Wiggly Jiggly, he saw a couple roaches. His priority is defending against any early rush attacks with roaches, which Cyclones don't do too well against defensively. They run out of room just to kite, and they just don't do enough damage fast enough. So your priority's on tanks initially, but if he's thinking about the Spire, he wants to go into like Raptor Cyclones right now. This was a teleport in, and unfortunately, without as much damage, it's already taken. Oh no, was it teleport in? Man, I'm bad. It's so often a teleport in, but he actually moved that around the field and now teleported out. So that's really important because Corruptors are on the way, and that absolutely would have died without a teleport. Hellion's gonna try and get in for some damage, but also some scouting would have been quite lucky for him. Not gonna find it. Corruptor's still a mystery, and still no Cyclones, despite actually starting the Cyclone upgrade. No missile turrets either. Not even engineering bay. He's building it now. This is when that Roach Corruptor attack can actually work, because the Corruptors jump on top of the battlecruisers. They don't harass. They die straight up, and then the Roaches overwhelm the tanks because the battlecruisers are usually at least some part of the defense. He does scout the Corruptors with a little bit of advance notice. Gonna just move those battlecruisers away. And this Hellions gonna try and do something. There's so many of them. You think they'd be able to find something or another, but there's too many queens with transfuses. Corruptor's actually going for a P on the building. Wait, whoa, is that supposed to happen? Uh-oh. The battlecruiser is moving away. His priority was saving the battlecruisers, not thinking about what could possibly die to the Corruptors, and that's a big mistake there. Third command center goes down, and he's not gonna replace it with this one either. He might just take his 4th quicker, but that is a big loss of income at a pretty important juncture. You're still building a lot of production. You're still trying to get to double armories as well, which is obviously very expensive with everything else you're doing. Teleport will be used to escape this. He does scout the mutas as well, and there goes the Cyclone production now, but is it already too late? He's got 2 ready. He's got a couple Widow Mines on the way. He does have some missile turrets, but only around that 3rd base. Now building them in the natural and the main. He was obviously very starved for minerals. He lost 400 minerals worth and a lot of lost mining. This is really scary. soO really having just so much momentum is a big difference from the last few games. TY going to try his best to use his missile turret to his advantage, and that might just save him here. A couple Widow Mines also coming forward, going to help against those Corruptors. They're going to try and maybe slash up the units. Doesn't really work out that way. SV repairs also go down to those battlecruisers, so while one does go down, the other 2 are still relatively healthy. More Cyclones on the way as well. Going to lock on to 2 more Corruptors, at least take them out. And that is a hold, but still, soO has so much more momentum than any of the previous games. He's on 5 bases, or he's going to 5 bases. He's got 89 workers, and he's seeing an opportunity to actually use these mutas. Last game, it was kind of like a meh, when does it ever work? But this, with the momentum, with the lack of scouting from TY, his harassment's really been shut down. He's always going to be guessing what to do, and he's always going to be slightly out of position as well. So these mutas actually might just work out really, really perfectly. And with only 2 Cyclones right now, I'm like thinking that's going to be the case. Muta Corruptor going for the battlecruisers. They find the Cyclones and jump on top of them. Oh, Widow Mine getting a decent hit. That's not too bad. The battlecruisers, the mass repair. More mass repair. That's not mass. Oh my god, the amount of SCVs is just so close to being good enough. Oh, more SCVs to be pulled, but he's on this battlecruiser. Widow Mine also even helping out a tiny little bit, I think, with the splash. More SCVs were pulled, but they're also dying, so that battlecruiser, okay, he's gonna live, fine. But damn, 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 damn. This is very, very close. And again, behind this, soO. Everything looks to be very important about this battle, and it is. It is important that Battlecruiser lived, because otherwise it's kind of free reign, it looks like. But it's so much more important that soO has now 6 bases. And can just replace with whatever he wants. TY's armories are delayed. I mentioned that earlier because of the lack of gas mining. He should already be on his way to 1-1 instead it just started. He probably is supposed to be at, what, 4 battlecruisers? 5 battlecruisers like last game, and he's only at 2 with the second one coming forward. Everything is just so different that even though TY has got a pretty healthy 4-base economy, he is potentially going to die to a mid-game attack or a particularly quick max out on Hive. Like, ugh. Lings hitting in here are barbecued by the Hellions. That wasn't so bad, but the rest of the units are causing a little bit of trouble. Supply depots have gone down. Lost SCV mining once again, especially on those gas geysers. This is just chaos. That is not so bad right here and now, but soO is just banking. He's getting ready for the killing blow, and TY cannot get a word in right now. He's just defend, 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 and barely doing that. It would be so much nicer if he had 3 battlecruisers. It would be so much nicer if he had 1-1. But just from the very get-go, things have changed. I do like that quote, Locke. It's always a fun quote. TY has also lost that Sim City that saved him a couple battles ago, those missile turrets, so soO is going to continue to hammer in on that 3rd base, just trying to get maxed out. He is getting maxed out with a very mobile army. It is Ling, Mutiker up there with only a little splash of those roaches. Blue Flame is only now just started. You usually don't need it that quickly unless it's Swarm Hosts, and it wasn't, but it actually been very helpful against the composition. Thor's also been helpful, but you know, his plan is usually to go for Thor's much later on in the game. Well, actually around 12 minutes, funnily enough, but this is a very different 12 minutes. So Thor's are finally on the way. Missile Turret's trying their best to hold on, but it is 21 mutas, and they do have at least 1 upgrade. The Cyclones can take out 1 muta at a time, but that's not really good enough. This is the point of mutas where you would want Thor's, or you would want at least like 8 Cyclones, I would say. And this actually feels like the killing blow. TY finally got some damage on the other side of the map, but soO sees an opportunity. He's going to continue making mutas. He sees the opportunity, and he is going to seize the opportunity. This might just be it, actually. At any point, TY has 30 seconds of breathing room. I think he's fine. Just from losing that orbital command, everything just went so terribly for him. I mean, this style really does depend on being able to expand, like, reliably and not take damage, right? Like, as soon as one little crack is found, it splits wide open. But the point is, it's really hard to actually find a crack in the defense. Those corruptors peeing on that command center was just... How often does that happen? Generally, there's 2 Cyclones to stop that from happening, and that was the start of the bad things, was that he just kept making tanks. These all roaches. Didn't see the Spire. Sub 100 supply at this point in the game is just too much to come back from. This is absolutely soO's game. 4th base went down. 3rd base is barely mining. TY is just stubbornly holding on to the belief that the mech army will eventually take a good trade. That happens occasionally. I'd give him a chance if it was like a 150, 160 supply, but nah. Nah, there's no chance, TY. The mutas, okay, maybe don't like just tackle the Thor's head on. Maybe that's a bad idea. But I think, yeah, they could maybe magic box on him. Split a little bit, just a little. These are not as well upgraded as Thor's as they should be, and there's the tap out. soO! Starting that comeback. TY has a Cero portrait. Just want you guys to know that. In the bottom right, it is TY on Triton. In the top left, it is the Blue Zerg soO. Finally putting a point on the board. But I will stick with that analogy. Like, you generally do not find cracks in the early game against a player like that. You try with more dedicated things, like a big all-in earlier on, or, you know, Roach Ravager all-in. Not really like Banelings anymore in professional games, but I guess that's an option too. But yeah, the Ling Roach Ravager all-in is an attempt to deal with that. It usually fails, though. The one that hits while the Terran's still on 2 bases, that usually fails. And then, I mean, what else do you really have as a Zerg player? You basically just kind of have to start the ball rolling. Like, the Terran will survive, but if you get the ball rolling in your favor, then it's like 10 times easier. So even like a 20-30 Ling swell that surprises the Hellions and catches them, they won't die. But you'll take the momentum, they deal with some damage. That's pretty good. That's what soO did with the surprise Spire. It's so weird saying it was a surprise, though, because it is just usually the thing to do. I think that early game that TY forced upon soO, and thus upon himself, was actually what threw off that game so much. Because otherwise, he's been very reliably going to 2 Cyclones. And if you don't do 2 Cyclones, as I mentioned in the first game, you know, people sometimes don't do that, you're usually getting some pretty damn quick missile turrets up. And that just didn't happen. Dark is the best Zerg in the world, technically, yes. He won the championship. He's been pretty consistent. But, it's always weird, because there's so many tournaments. So many tournaments in StarCraft. It was a lot easier to determine who was the best in the world, I think, back when Brood War was happening, because there was, like, 3 very reliable tournaments and maybe 1 that happened, like, you know, surprisingly. So there was the Pro League, which was a team thing, and there was, OSL, and... oh my god, I can only think of the new acronyms right now, actually. Oh my god. Shit, what was the other... MSL. Oh, man. Oh, I finally got it. I was, like, going through all the letters, man. Because now we have the ASL and the KSL, but back in the day, it was the OSL and the MSL. Oh, my god. Okay, I did it. I did it. Thank you, DJ Doc Holiday. The 100 bits. I did it. I did it, guys. I did it. So, anyways, that was the only tournaments you would really have. And it was such a drastically different, like, atmosphere as well. Like, where replays would never be shared ever. That's, like, the exact opposite of what happened in StarCraft, too. But you also just had more opportunities to be like, well, this guy won both of these tournaments this year. Like, oh my god, he's absolutely the best. Where if someone wins 2 tournaments in StarCraft 2, like 2 WCSs, you know, there's obviously still a lot of controversy over whether they're the best player in the world. Mara wins literally all the tournaments in his region in a year, and there's still arguments over whether he's the best Terran because he bombed out at WSG and didn't do well at IEM. Like, it's just so hard. Yeah, WCG would be the one that I mentioned, kind of just pops out of nowhere, but I think I accurately described the Brood War scene. Like, it pops out of nowhere. It's not very prestigious. The qualifications for it are actually much better than the main event. Yeah. A handful of links moving across the map, but not enough to really scare. This is not the attempt to try and get a start, you know, ball rolling on top of the Hellions. So maybe it is. Maybe it is. He comes in from 2 different directions. A nice little split on the Lings, that is, captures the Hellions, but you gotta figure 2 more Hellions are on the way, and it's just a matter of time. They do get some scouting. They do take out 2 Hellions, but that didn't end up going as well as soO was perhaps hoping for. But that was a really great scout. It's all a Tech Club, it's all in the barracks. There's no starport in sight. It's all a Viking pop out, not a Banshee, not a Liberator. Good stuff there from soO. And the reason there's no starport is that it is a 3rd CC build. Now, he couldn't quite see deep enough for that, and he didn't see the lack of second gas with his Overlord. But there's one way you can tell. It's the lack of supply depots at the front. That does give you a very big hint. I could be wrong, but I've seen lots of different builds from Terran, and as far as I know, none of them don't have supply depots at the front. Hellbats are like the opposite. If it's an armory, it's more. It's, you know, 3 supply depots instead of 2 into command center. So, yeah. if I harp on it that much, I gotta assume the pro gamers also consider that a good sign at the very least, right? If not just a straight up tell. And soO should be accommodating for that. He should also be thinking that it is bio, but considering the last few games, I guess I would also be a little questioning it, but he even saw it stimming. Stimming? Researching stim. Blah, 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 blah. So I think soO knows what's up. It will be a drastically different game, but he's already probably like shifted his mentality to focus on what he needs to, which is centrifugal hooks. So if he knew from the get-go or strongly was suspicious that it was bio, maybe he does something different than fast centrifugal hooks. Maybe he goes for double upgrades. But centrifugal hooks is pretty good. He actually cancels a bunch of his spore crawlers, realizing he does not need them. There is absolutely no banshees on the way. This one can be kept alive just because it's going to help with the drops. I think it was already completed, that type of stuff. But and not only does he cancel his spore crawlers, he is going to go ahead and grab that spire. So we do see this a lot. You see bio more now, and we're seeing this as response a lot. You still get that kind of fast centrifugal hooks, but not so much against the fear of a 2-tank push, which it does still help against, obviously. But also as it's kind of one of your most reliable things to deal with any pressure, because you're actually focusing more on the spire, which is on the way. So, roly-poly's on creep. Even the best executed 2-tank push is going to be a little scared of that. Buy some time to get to those mutas, and the mutas, should they have enough time and enough help from their buddies on the ground, will take out the tanks and swamp this army. You also need some decent creep spread to do this, which this is decent. Big Ling run by is actually perfectly timed. Oh my god. So many Terrans are actually so paranoid of this that they actually keep their Hellions at home, and you can see exactly why. This not only does a lot of damage, a lot of lost mining time, SCVs go down, Marines go down, it also takes away TY's focus off the push, which is that's when Balins suddenly are already there and you're dead. But actually, TY focusing on the push now sees a wide open 4th base. He's on creep, but there's no army to defend it. The army is continuing to hammer that 3rd base. Hellbats are available though. The armory finished up. One's already done here for TY, not so much for soO. soO has invested a lot more into run-bys, but also into those mutas. So he does pop out 10, almost 11 immediately, and that's the type of count that will threaten a tank, even if it's somewhat protected. So TY has got to be careful about that, and he's also got to know that he won't be able to escape. If he overstays his welcome, he won't be able to escape. soO loses a base, but it's actually not the biggest thing here. He could even double expand once he knows that this has been cleared out. The mutas will now focus on engaging with the main and 3rd base. 3rd base is a little too well protected, but the main base, not so much. Missiles are even like a little bit too far back. Gonna grab some reinforcements and really start to take control over the map. As TY focuses on not taking damage from the mutas, he generally loses focus on the attack. He even realizes that, like, if you have tanks that aren't doing anything else, you just better siege them, okay? 2 tank shots is better than none and feeling like a fool. So, good siege there. Even finds the mutas coming in. Gets 1 right off the bat. Double expand does come down as soO was banking minerals anyways. His macro hatchery is also on the way. That even feels a little bit late. I'm guessing it's one of those things where he had just enough minerals for the mutas and then very quickly started to bank up the minerals after that. So yeah, he definitely needs to have his bases up for that larva as he is on a pure muta-ling baneling style. Very larva intensive. A lot of Terrans are getting just holed in after this phase as well. They do their little tank push. It seems like it goes okay. Grabs a 4th base kind of for free. That's awesome. But then the mutas kind of dominate. It gets scarier and scarier to push out on the map, especially if their creep spread is good. And they just kind of have to hope that they can get to their 3-3 max out, and then they have a decent push. It's sometimes not very pretty. It feels bad watching a Terran player, even if you're not a Terran player. It just kind of seems like they're holed in and can't do anything. Is that this game? Not quite, because soO really hasn't scared TY enough. The creep spread also isn't quite good enough. In fact, it's rather lackluster on the left side, but it's kind of almost like a fake. It's like a please take that base and not the right side base, which is exactly what TY does. He grabs the 5th base of soO, but doesn't know about the top right, which also taking a 6th base, and then he also gets hammered on his 3rd. Mutas do take a lot of damage, but most of them still alive. Not for long, though, if they continue around here. All of them so damn low that even a single missile turret took down 2 of them. But considering how up in TOI's grill he was for how many mutas that were left alive, it's actually kind of impressive. There's still a lot of Baneling back at home, as well as the initial tank push. It's going to be cleaned up. Tanks get at least one shot before they are taken out, and the medevacs will barely escape as the muta count still very weak. Also well protected by the Marines that were reinforcing. TY also going to take an advanced position with his 4th base. Really keep up the pressure, and that's what you got to do. As soon as you let go of the pressure, soO expands, soO creep spreads, and just continues to dominate. This is still a very interesting TVZ. No one's really won it quite yet. soO is comfortable again with losing those bases. He's still banking enough minerals to replace it again, as well as take this base over to the right side. 76 workers might even be a little bit low, actually, for this style, but I guess he hasn't gotten the expansions up like he would want. Generally see like an 80+ situation. This is from the IEM Qualifiers. So +1 on those mutas. No reaching to +2. No, not quite. And also 22 mutas. That's a very decent count. No hive quite yet, which I'm a little surprised by, but he has been rather gas-starved. He's actually not gotten this gas. That's interesting. Oh, but big fight in the middle. Thor going to try its best to take out the mutas, but they split a little bit. Half of them do go down pretty damn well to the Thor, but the ground army seems to be winning out here. The medevac, oh my god, it's a very weak medevac to pick up the Thor. Oh, Jesus. One Widowmine gets a pretty good shot, but this has already seemed to go too well in favor of soO, just enveloping TY's army before TY was prepared, and perhaps lacking just too few Widowmines to really support that. The mutas did give their lives to continue with that push, so down to 9 is a much more manageable number if TY could hold. The TY's natural and 3rd base is being broken right now. Even his production has been stalled out. Supply depot is now going down. He's sub 100 supplies. He also loses the units on the front line, and that has got to be it. soO, I mean, starting it off with that run by was pretty brutal, but then catching TY a little off guard here and there around the 3rd base and around the actual engagement was too much. Too much. soO will very soon double the supply of TY, I bet. He is now finally up to that base. No, he got it lost again. Are you kidding me? Alright, fine. He's still up on 5 bases. And can take this one as well. TY is not going to give up yet. Now, that was a rather pricey loss of Banelings and Mutas, so maybe. But I think if he had... It's a maybe if he had kept all of his bases alive and running. But so many of his bases lost SCVs and lost mining time that it's probably not going to work out very well. And he's still kind of low on that Widowmine count. You know, the Widowmine production has been, I assume, consistent enough, because it's TY and his macro is really great. Oh, that sucks. But it's still not enough, I guess, including the option of having to build a Thor with your 3rd, or with your 2nd factory, that is, instead of a 3rd Widowmine. And now he lost the 2nd factory, so he can't even build Thors anymore. Three finally kicks in. This is usually when the Terran has their best bet at pushing, so you could even maybe say that TY pushed too soon and kind of deserved to be slapped back, but, you know, this is an easy peasy A move. GG. soO ties up the score. And now is a real contender for getting that flight and hotel paid for. It's also so much nice to be seated in Katowice, guys. Like, Katowice starts on Sunday. This is like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or like the open bracket, I think. Wednesday's a break, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or like the rest of the bracket or something like that. I don't know, but it's like half of a week that you get just to chill and practice. We're on Nightshade for the final map. In the top left, it is TY. In the bottom right is the blue Zerg. It is soO. Hope you guys are enjoying the cast. If you missed any from previous streams, I am uploading these to YouTube. My YouTube has actually been on fire with casts more than anything else, because I also did the ESL tournament, which I do plan on doing this weekend as well. I want to do the Korean ones. It's a little wonky in the Korean scene right now. Oh, pull first again from soO. Because of the coronavirus, They had their super tournament canceled, which really sucked. Big bummer. But they've also been, like, preparing for the super tournament, that a lot of them didn't bother participating in some of these online tournaments, like the Lima League or the ESL Pro Tour Cup. Still a decent number of names, but just, like, not as many as you would hope. That might change if we're not approaching a big tournament. But now, with the super tournament being delayed till March, you could say that many of them are now just going to focus 100% on Katowice. So... yeah, it's not the biggest bracket that you could have with the most impressive names that you could have, but Korea has always been my favorite region. I know I've been like a WCS caster for a while now, and a lot of our events online when I was on Base Rate TV were, not Korean. It's one out of 3 regions. But it's always been my favorite region. I still think the top talent comes from there, and top skill. And basically all my favorite players are Korean as well. Basically. So, I like to cast it whenever I get my chance. Thank you, Retribution. I say basically, because I really do like cheering for Serral. I'll cheer for Serral against the Koreans. I think it's a great story. And I really do have some, like, soft spots for a couple foreigners. Like, I really like Showtime. His style is something that, like, I would steal. As well as his, like, work ethic and all that. And, here Marine's just, like, a laugh to cheer for, you know what I mean? I think he's really, really good, but he also just has, like, a really funny interviews and good stream and all that. But, yeah. TY, one of my favorite Terrans. Innovation, still my favorite Terran. I hope he does well this year. Zest, still my favorite Protoss. I guess I actually just like European Zergs more than Korean Zergs, though, if I'm being brutally honest right now. I have no dog in the whole Europe versus Korean Zerg fight, unlike the actual European and Korean Zergs who constantly rebut each other for it. But I guess I'm just, like, more personal with the non-Korean Zergs. Everyone cheers for soO to not get second place. That much makes it basically a fact. But otherwise, like, Dark's not my favorite player. Rogue's not my favorite player. I actually really like Ragnarok right now, though. Ragnarok has been really spicing things up in the online cups and doing very, very well. Anyways, we do have a different story from the Battle, which is once again, so last game, 3rd CC into Bio. This game, we're going to have the Banshees into Mech, potentially. And, yeah, soO, I noted this a couple games ago, is just not being Overlord speed. In fact, very little Overlord scouting. He's been going along the thought process of, there are other ways I can scout, and I am relying on that. And it's been okay. It's worked out for him. Even a couple links trying to get into the natural. Oh, speaking of getting into the natural, main base is now contaminated with a bunch of Terran Hellions. And oh, those are very weak Hellions, but they almost got a perfect shot off. 4 Hellions, or still 4 Hellions, even if they have 5 health, but not quite grabbing it. Only grabbed 3 drones and delay the layer maybe by 10 seconds and bother soO just a tad. But what they did reveal is no Spore Crawlers. soO even canceling the Spore Crawlers last game. Remember, he saw a Viking and said, you know what? It's not Banshees. It's a 3rd CC. I don't have to worry about this. Well, he's not even getting Spore Crawlers? Okay. He does start them now, but the first Banshee is coming across the map. Spore Crawlers luckily developed pretty quickly. You know they got buffed back in 2011? Did you guys know that? So it looks like this will be fine. At a time where it 100% should have been a Spine Crawler buff. 100%. I'm still salty about this. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It's 9 years ago, get over it. It is going to be stim. Okay, cool. I mean, this is my build. So I'm glad to see it's still used by a couple of pros. It's usually not. Like, there's a very big, I think, anti-Banshee hype. Anti-Banshee train? I wouldn't call it a hype train, right? Yeah, there's like a... Everyone just pushed away the thought of Banshees, especially with Bio. Oh, it's not going to be Bio. Oh, ZombieGrub shouldn't do this build anymore. Whatever, man. I do what I want. Actually, I go into mech with after Banshees as well, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I used to go Bio. And then Bio was too hard, and I gave up on it. So soO, now here's the trick. Does he think it's Bio or does he think it's mech? He saw one Banshee, which he dealt with very well. We even have the little pinwheels there. The Banshee speed also canceled. So TY really changing gears here. soO did not see very much. He saw Stim researching. Oh, that's really important. So he's gonna get typical hooks and go into Aspire once again, just like last game, without knowing it's mech. So he won't get Corruptors, he'll get Mutas, which, hey, it worked out in that one game, right? But a different scenario, I think. Different plan of action. Different style. So I think this is just straight up soO making a mistake. An understandable mistake. He didn't see the gas timings, he didn't see the armories, he just saw the stim. He hasn't even seen extra Hellions either, really. Like, 4 extra Hellions before their sacrifice makes sense even for a bio player, because you have to protect your natural, you have to protect your 3rd CC. I think maybe now he's starting to think about it. Maybe the Hellions did tip him off a little bit, like, oh, wait a minute, you're still producing. Scan reveals Aspire, which is a nice scan. He can go into Cyclone production. Well, he's already in a Thor production, actually, so there you go. TY might have leaned into, like, it's really hard as the person doing the fake to convince yourself that they were actually faked out, you know what I mean? But he might have leaned into it. He might have been like, you know what, I just faked soO out, so I'm going to go into Thor's, because I know he's going to do the Muta thing again, because he thinks I'm doing bio. If so, 10 out of 10, big brain strategies. Drones going down to these Hellions, kind of a nice little thing there. 11 drones, really not too shabby, and the Hellions actually get out before the Mutas pop. They can always be used to buy more time, if they have to, for the Mutas to chase around. But, yeah, Thors are already here. 1-1's already on the way. soO now going into Roach Speed and +1 Carapace. That's the only upgrade he's been able to afford. Infestation Pit also on the way here. 8 Mutas, and that's it, as he realizes, yes, it is mech. Blue Flame on the way pretty quickly. Might just be because he can afford it, and this is the composition he's going for. Hellion. How about Thor? Does he have any suspicion of Swarm Host? He hasn't scanned the Infestation Pit, and there's no Swarm Host so far. We'll see. We'll see. I think it is going to be Swarm Host because we do have the Butthole Nidus coming down. Swarm Host Nidus, yes, very powerful combination, but CY already so well set up in this game. Good upgrades, good composition. He's even going to get some harassment done. This is kind of a bold thing to do against someone who goes Mutas, just in case, you know? If they got 20 Roaches on the ground and they have Mutas, it's hard to micro those Thors out of that scenario. But he's going to do it, and I think they'll be very effective. Muta's going to chase after the Hellions. They stop killing his creep, but then they can't do much about the Thors, so you got to really micro around here. And he doesn't have any Roaches. He had 4 Roaches. He has 2 Roaches. How do you... Oh, he's made him Ravagers. He's gotten 8 more Roaches on the way, and the Mutas are at least trying to buy some time, but the Hellions, once again, dipping into that 3rd base, grabbing 5 more drones. TY evaluating situation, saying maybe this isn't so good to commit to. Gonna pull back. Nidus Room is on the way to the right side. This will be the first time TY will hear of it. But as I said, he already has a really decent composition. Decent number of Hellbats, Blue Flame. I'm not too scared. At worst, he just lifts the CC and runs, because there's nothing else happening right now. There's no Roaches coming across the map. Spoke too soon. They're not here yet. And the Mutas are basically a non-threat right now. Yeah, very easy cleanup with Blue Flame. I don't even know if SCVs went down. Are you kidding me? They didn't. Kidding me? Kidding me? It's a very good cleanup. Very poor first Locust wave. But this will continue on for some time. Maybe not forever. TY probably actually going to do a 2-2 push with this style, as opposed to just turtling. So these Locusts have really got to get something done. They are actually kind of on a timer. Kind of. Thor didn't have to take that damage. That's fine, though. Muta's still trying their best to be useful, and the Roaches do finally come across the map, but I think it's very clear that they won't do very much. There's enough Thors, there's tanks. It's going to have to be more about those Swarm Hosts finding an opportunity. soO is comfortably on 4 bases right now. Perhaps going up to 5. One of the better responses we have seen from people who can actually do it anyways, not us plebs, 2 Swarm Hosts has been adding in Cyclones. There's kind of a dance to it, you know, if they're going for a lot of Swarm Hosts, which soO certainly is, then yes, it works. Just don't stay in one place forever. If they kind of transition in and out of it, add on some high-tech, then it can be, you know, kind of a waste. Certainly seen people transition into Cyclone Hellbat and actually just totally fail. But it can be useful, so certainly worth the upgrade, I would say. And there's the Cyclones. Nidus Worm's still going to play Whack-A-Mole. Muta's providing that vision. It's always going to be a threat. But TY is maxed out, hitting with that 2-2. Fucking nailed it on the analysis. Tell your friends, everyone. I'm the best. And that is not a very strong Roach Ravager army, is it? TY looking very convincing in this game. He tries to use the Locust on the planetary, but that doesn't do very much. It's gonna kill the planetary. And that thing can't even lift. It wasn't even repaired. Now the Locusts aren't available for the defense, and while mech pushes are slow, and there probably will be a Locust wave, this is a very good composition against Locusts. Just have to keep the Hellbats on the right side of things. Here they come now. Oh, I underestimated how many Locusts weren't available. So one tank goes down, maybe a Thor goes down as well. Not even, just kidding. Nuh-uh, not even a Thor. And a lot of Hellbats still alive here. 2 medevacs, I think. Sometimes, I feel like you should actually be adding in at least 2 medevacs if you're up against Swarm Host with this. This is more so from the drop from earlier. It is helping the Hellbats. Just because so many Hellbats seem to be just lower health. You know, they don't die necessarily, but they're low health. I think it's a useful thing. Anywho, a couple SCVs did die to the Locust, of course, but that's 4 CCs, easily replacing SCVs. I rhymed. Oh my god, my cat's such a disaster. Alright, anyways. Even helping out with some micro on the Thors. This is what Humio used to do. Back when people were really bad with Locusts, they would just totally get baited by the 2 Thors on the front line. Doesn't really happen there, but the Locusts all just collapse into Hellbats, which is exactly what TY wants. And everything, oh, such a scary army still left over. soO's maxed out, but he is not actually maxed out. Swarm Hosts, big waste of supply right here. And Roaches and Ravagers not doing very much better with the supply they take up. 4th base gonna go down. soO's brand new 5th base has never even been used. Maybe now it can be, but it should be under fire. And soO just gonna try desperately to put the pressure back on TY to finally have some breathing room. I don't think it's gonna work, man. TY showcasing a slightly different style of mech has really done well here. So you're gonna desperately try and go down. Oh, this choke against Liberators and tanks. Oh, good god. But the Locusts are actually doing their part here this time. Hellbats were not so concentrated on the front line. And even though soO went down to choke, he is able to break free. This game isn't quite over yet, but soO at a loss of a lot of economy. Needs to get that replaced. Needs to get that drone count back up. 60 is not super convincing, and he's not even mined from his 3rd base with the Liberator. But this is where Storm Host really start to shine, you know? Like, he doesn't have a bank, but he will soon. He already does. I spoke again too soon. It was not just 1,000. What happened? He was looking at TYs. But anyways, you will accrue a bank with Swarm Hosts if you don't just die. Because they are not actually using any minerals to do what they do. So soO calmly replaces his 2 bases. Still has some decent creep spread, just because TY wasn't focused on creep spread removal. He's focused on actually killing the damn guy. We have Banshees now in production as he added on a 2nd starport. He's also getting the Banshee speed upgrade. Great, fantastic for dealing with Nidus Worms. Not only dealing with Nidus Worms, but also catching Swarm Hosts as they retreat. Makes it a lot easier, and TY is fully onto a different style of mech. No more Thors, no more tanks, just pure Hellbat, Cyclone, and Liberators. And yes, Banshees. soO, if he starts losing Swarm Hosts, he won't have, I mean, he could maybe replace them for a little while, but he needs to get that drone count back up specifically to get that gas bank back up. And then maybe a couple lost Swarm Hosts here and there won't be such a big deal. But Liberator's being a huge bother. He knows where all the Ravagers are on the front line. There's nothing else that really shoots up here. No Spore Crawler, actually. No Queen. So lots of lost mining. Cyclone still trying their best. Every time you see an explosion on the Terran side, it's usually a Hellion, and that's really not such a big deal. Eventually, the Cyclones will get amazing lock-ons on the Ravagers and kill them. Gotta run away from the Locust, though. Gotta go back to the safety of more Hellbats. And that, oh, that Planetary just went down instantly. Oh, no. That died super quick. But TY has another base already being built to the left side. His Remax was a struggle. He was not rolling in the dough like previous games, because he was actually hitting a more interesting 2-2 timing. But it is still consistent enough that he will eventually max out. And uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, he finds a bunch of Locusts. Oh, Swarm Host, that is. Swarm Host dying super quickly as well. I mean, they tried to go back into the Nidus Worm, but even body blocking with the Cyclones. I mean, even if they didn't body block, they were getting like 3-shot right there. Like, holy crap. 20 SCVs went down somewhere else, wasn't paying attention. Maybe to the Locust, actually, I guess. But not comparable to losing that many Swarm Hosts. He lost 17 Swarm Hosts in this game, guys. That's insane. He's rebuilding 12 more, but that was the gas bank limiter I was just talking about. Oh, no. Hyperflight Broder is also about to finish up here, so 5 Banshees going to start running around, taking advantage of very low or none Spore Crawler bases. There's still no Spore Crawlers. He dealt with the Liberators of Queens. That's going to hurt against those Banshees. Thank you very much to Pig for the raid, as well as the 19-month resub. Much appreciated. This is the last game, so I'm going to end the stream very, very soon. But thank you so much. We're 2-2 into an IEM Qualifier match. Whoever wins this actually gets to qualify for Katowice. Don't spoil it if you know, because I certainly have already forgotten. But we just saw 17 Swarm hosts die, and now the Banshees are... Oh, well, some... Okay, I don't know how one died. Okay, come on, TY. But Banshees, big surprise for soO, has nothing to protect himself against that. A couple Infestors on the way. And what are they going to do? Fungal it? Ha. Only if the Corruptors are around, they'll be effective. And the Corruptors are here. Corruptors do not run as fast. They do run as fast, but the Overseers run as fast. Fly as fast, whatever. And that has always been the conundrum of the Banshee speed, that the Overseer isn't as fast. Even with Overlord speed, they can get away. Base goes down pretty quickly to a bunch of Cyclones, and Roaches and Ravagers will soon follow if soO is not careful. SCV's going down to the left as to the Locusts, which are popping up from Metis rooms every which way. Liberators, unfortunately, pretty much the worst against units like Locusts. Lots of tiny, inexpensive units, or in this case, free units. Liberators don't help out too much. There is so much action happening every which way. soO has been trying to pile on the pressure as well as being, getting damage done and trying to get TY off of his back, but it's not really working like he would want. He's not finding as much damage as he needs to. Another base goes down in addition to the top right. soO still has an army, he still has a bit of a bank, but he is struggling to get even footing once more against all this harassment, all this constant pressure from the style TY has developed into, transitioning from the Thor tank of the earlier game. And once again, transitioning into those Thors. I mean, TY, I'm actually surprised he's doing a Thor transition. Maybe he's expecting Broodlords. He's seen Corruptors, he's seen Infestors. There's almost guaranteed to be a Hive. And I'll say it again, Thor's not almost ever a bad option. But I'm a little surprised by it, because we do not have Broodlords on the way. He's even getting Ravens, which feels like a very late game response. And we're still kind of stuck in the mid game here for soO. These Infestors don't even have Neural Parasite. The Nidus from to the left side. I really thought this game was going to be over around that 11-minute mark, is it? That 2-2 push, it looks very, very deadly. But it's not over. And soO certainly still has a chance. TY is once again in the driver's seat. He just, he's also struggling to get as many bases as he would like. But if he ever starts taking 2 bases at a time with no pressure applied to it, then that's a terrible sign for soO. Locust Wave gonna try and find something here, maybe a couple Cyclones. But at the same time, Banshees were looking for a base. They see Corruptors, so they're not going to take the fight. They do also see some Infestors, and they're going to take that fight. Instantly pick off the Infestors. 1 shot each. One desperate Fungal came out to catch 1 Banshee, and it wasn't even enough. And now TY is getting yet another base down south. I mean, soO could continue trying to expand up to the right side, but it's been really difficult for him to try and expand, pressure, and tackle any harassment. Very, very difficult for him. This base has never really been mining. It's actually his 3rd base. It still has a decent number of minerals left. It's not been mining for very long. Banshees do find the army and the Nidus Worm, but it's well protected by the Corruptors. Well, it was well protected by the Corruptors. Now the Thor's going to win that battle. The Banshees will reign supreme. Almost kind of like that Thor Liberator dynamic we saw in earlier games, I guess. And the Thors just slap down the Corruptors, so they just kind of whine and tuck their tail between their legs and run away. Can't do anything about the Banshees. A kind of brutal combination of units that I think if this was, again, a more even footing game, a game where both of them were very passive and they kind of had a lot of time to think about everything, soO might not have trouble with the Banshees, but right now he's having a lot of trouble with them. They're adding a lot of extra DPS on top of Roaches and Ravagers. And taking out some of his important units, those poor Infestors, all those Swarm hosts. He's replaced them, but how many have died in the making of this game? He's only actually lost 1 since that catastrophic loss of Swarm hosts earlier on. That's commendable, but overall useless. He keeps hitting a base that also is just not important anymore. Yeah, you want as many gases as possible when you go for a mech, and that's kind of the weakest part about this for TUI, but he has two pretty fresh bases that have all their gas geysers. And he's still mining off of his 4th gas geyser, so it's still pretty consistent income. He just wants to actually be able to end the damn game. He's getting really close to it. Anti-armor missile on most of those Ravagers. Almost seems unnecessary, you know? When tanks have +3 against Ravagers, it's like they get blown apart or they get blown apart, you know what I mean? But it is a useful spell to have. Nice Storm from the backside could do a lot of damage to this base. Does soO know about it? Doesn't. He might just send him over to this base, which, you know, could still be effective. No building armor, not even bothering to try and save the planetary if it were to be entirely surrounded by locusts. But so far, he's been hitting this orbital, which is just lifted. We'll see what happens when all the locusts are used on the planetary. Banshees find another base. soO has just had such limited mining this game. What are the resources lost? Limited mining and still trading out very poorly. I mean, that explains his lack of bank. Yeah, locusts do go to that planetary, but the army returned back in just the right moment. Even some Banshees appearing to help out the planetary, and with the repair, that is not going to go down. soO trying to desperately double expand, losing some of the last of his resources, while TUI very comfortably gets another base up. I'm thinking this is some of the last signs of life from soO. He's going to try and add in some Banelings, which is like kind of the first time we've seen this since he got the Baneling nest earlier on when he thought it was a bio. It does sometimes help. The Banelings take out the Thor or the Hellbats, and then the Locusts can take out the Thors and tanks more reliably. This also works with like a Broodlord composition, but it's not a lot of Banelings, and they do die to tank shots, so you know there's that. You need a decent number of Banelings. You want a concave of Banelings. You kind of want to jump on the Terran army as well before they're ready to fight with Banelings. That's when they're effective. Funnily enough, TUI has a lack of Hellbats on his Thor line just because they're being aggressive. But, ooh, Locust used to kill this planetary. But, you know, again, it's like one of the least important planetaries. And this also is very easy to replace with an orbital. Arguably, it's even better for TUI to take orbitals, because he's not really been pressured by things that kill orbitals. He's been pressured by things that kill planetaries. Anyways. 16 drones go down as they were mining from that 5th base. This base is now really the only mining soO has. It is a slow and sad death, but it is absolutely a death. Good catch in the Banshee. At least stop that from killing all the remainder of his economy. But they do run away. Overlord speed is done. Doesn't matter. They're faster. Sorry, man. Maybe soO will tap out after this one last Locust wave. This one last attempt to save... Well, not even really save his base, but to actually take out the army. He has to just absolutely slam dunk this army to even have a chance to come back in this game. So that's what the Locusts have to do. That is a very, very tall order. Here they come. Little scuttlebutts. You can try your best. Not gonna work, though. Oh, and Banshees aren't necessary when Blue Flame Hellions just wreck every single last drone. soO at 4 drones. That's gonna be it. TUI goes up 2-0, loses 2 games, and says, you know what, I think I'll start winning again. And he does. He takes the final match. And he does get qualified for IEM, so we'll see him later on in the tournament. And he doesn't have to be worrying about paying his own